Today is May 2nd, 2020, and this is the second episode of the story of my life in Morocco. In the first episode, I talked about coming to Morocco, moving to Ouarzazate, and the culmination of events in my life leading up to the eventual shutdown of business as usual around the planet. I left off with March 15th when we were hanging out at the cafe, making plans. That evening, we went to hang out with Hamid's friend Mehdi and his horses to get some shots for a music video that my friends Walid and Sukaina were working on. Mehdi is a really talented stunt actor who's been in over 50 films made here in Ouarzazate, including Gladiator, Kingdom of Heaven, and Game of Thrones. Hamid and I worked on getting some extra shots while the really talented music video producer Najib Ben Rama focused in on what he does so well. Hamid also explained to me that if I learned some stunts, it might help me find work in the movie business. The next morning, I was tired, and I felt like sleeping in. It was March 16th, and a lot was about to happen that day, but all I was thinking about was sleep. Before I knew it, though, my friends showed up in a taxi, and we were on our way to Atlas Film Studios, which is the largest film studio in the world. Located on the western side of Ouarzazate, Atlas Studios extends way out into the desert and hills behind the city, providing lots of scenery options for the major movie companies. We were coming here to shoot more scenes for the music video that we had been working on the night before, but this time with 4 wheels instead of a horse. I had never been to Atlas Studios before, but I had decided early on that I wasn't going to go there as a tourist, but rather wait until I could go there in connection with some kind of project. So for that reason alone, this was a big day for me. We drove past the main gate to the studio and headed out back to where the castle film set that was built for the Kingdom of Heaven movie still stands. We had a fun time shooting the video with the guys from the quad company where Hamid used to work. When we were done shooting video, we took a group photo in front of this fallen siege tower that served as a prop in days gone by. Then we went back home again, and at some point later in the day, met up at the cafe. At around 5 p.m., the cafe started to close, even though under normal circumstances it would be open until midnight. I didn't know what was happening, but our de facto office was closed. We wandered out into the street, and that's when I saw that everything was closing. There were only 40 cases of COVID-19 in Morocco on March 16th, but the kingdom wasn't taking any chances. For a couple minutes, people wandered the sidewalks as the realization set in that our typical hangout spots were now closed, and the other ones were all closed too. Eventually, we wandered to our homes. 3 days later, it was announced that a curfew would begin the following day, March 20th, and that we should get some supplies and stay inside for a while. The curfew times were 6 p.m. in the evening until 6 a.m. in the morning. Also, only one person per household was allowed to go out, and that person would have to have a permit. I live alone, and so I have a permit, and it says I can go outside and buy food. During this time, I decided to accept all possible outcomes. My 90 days in Morocco was almost up. I'd planned to travel to Spain and back to renew my tourist status in Morocco, but on March 15th, all of the country's international flights were canceled. I thought it might be possible to take a bus to Mauritania, but this also seemed unlikely and could lead to further complications. I mulled over the general idea of returning to the US at this time. The industry that I had hoped to work in was shut down, and travel within the country had also stopped, so the idea of going on hiking or camping trips would also have to be tabled indefinitely. But there were reasons not to return to the US as well. It would mean a logistically difficult flight to London, and then another one on to New York, and then going to a small town in rural Maine called Lubec when the buses between New York and Maine were also not running. Once there, I thought I might quarantine myself in a barn for a while. But given that the average age of Lubec is 62, I thought it would be generally inconsiderate of me to go there after traveling internationally. Also, the top executive in the US was regularly contradicting himself in his speeches about the pandemic, meaning the US was probably in for a chaotic and potentially devastating situation. For this reason, I thought it would be better for me personally to stay in Morocco. In all reality, I hoped to stay right where I am. This would have been the most difficult and dangerous time to travel, and if it wasn't necessary, I thought there certainly wasn't any harm in staying put for a while. Luckily, all my concerns were resolved when, on March 17th, the government of Morocco announced that all foreigners could stay. This meant the 90-day rule had been suspended. So I stocked up on dry goods, got a permission slip to go outside, and on March 20th, curfew started. Around the beginning of April, I started wearing a mask when going outside, and by April 7th, that became the rule, though most of us had already started wearing masks when going outside, out of consideration for each other's well-being. And a month after it started, so this would be April 20th, it got extended until May 20th. More recently, on April 25th, when Ramadan started here, the quarantine was loosened a bit, so now it's 7 p.m. until 5 a.m. in the morning, and this gives people some extra time to get last-minute ingredients for their evening meals. In general, it seems that the mitigation efforts in Morocco have gone well, and I pray that that trend continues. So this sums up a bit of the official situation of what it's been like to be in Morocco during quarantine, but in my next video, I'll talk more about my personal experiences during this time. I'm really grateful to be here, and I hope you're all staying safe and doing all right. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, feel free to subscribe to my channel to follow the story and leave a like or a comment. Thanks.